Hi, I'm Roger Efron, a member of the Community Association Executive Board and a resident of the Venetian since 2006.
Hi, I'm Jackie Greasy, and I'm also a member of the Community Association since its inception. We built here in 2005 as part-time residents, and we purchased here in 2010 full-time.
The Community Association started in 2006, tackling a very important land issue that was going to affect all of us, and it was at Laurel and Pinebrook Road. We defeated it, by the way. And given the underdeveloped land in this area, the Community Association was formally organized in 2008 to monitor other issues. Today, some 12 years later, we are still active with issues which we refer to as outside the gates. Most recently, we've been strong advocates for the building of Sarasota Memorial Hospital at Laurel and Pinebrook, and we should see that, Jackie, in about 3 years. Over the years, we've also pursued the building of Jacaranda Boulevard, the noise issue on our border, and the concern about affordable housing, to just name a few of the issues that we're dealing with.
That's true, Roger. And also the Community Association has another side aimed at bringing in fresh ideas and events to add to the quality of life that we have here. For example, today our members enjoy reading the monthly newsletter, Parcels in Paradise, attending Bike-O-Rama, Shred Fest, receiving CPR training, and posting on the wall of something, our electronic communications board. In 2017, we had nearly 1,100 posts, and you can attend great educational seminars ranging from alligators to sore knees. Last year, during Hurricane Irma, we saw the Community Association Hurricane Response Team spring into action in a big way to help our community. They helped to prepare and then clean up afterwards. We were able to help keep lines of communication open with those who remained on the property, those who were up north, and those who evacuated, like myself. Our volunteer commitment was rewarded with many calls and notes of thanks. Speaking as a resident, I appreciate all the hard work the Community Association does to make this a wonderful place to live.
Now, we should know that none of this would be possible without the financial support of you, our residents. Over 3/4 of our residents have voluntarily joined. And last year, I'm proud to say, was a banner year for membership. We hope that those who have been members will continue to support the association. And for those who need to join, we hope our actions, from our seminars to parcels to Shred Fest, all of this will convince you to join today. Below is our very fine website, which you can go to join. Your membership will allow us to keep a good thing going. On behalf of Jackie and myself, thank you and have a great day. For those who haven't been here, this is the new refurbished and renovated Venetian Golf and Country Club, River Club's new beautiful River Club. Let's give it a round of applause to our wonderful people who worked hard. This is an annual event that we have sponsored by the Community Association, and our membership team is right over there, and if you need to pay up. We're also videotaping to our good friends up north. If you're watching this, we're glad that you're watching it. Early voting starts this week. They're mailing out the ballots. So we want to make sure that we have informed voters. And by the way, if you're up north watching this, the temperature here is about 60 degrees. It's very cold. Roger never lies. And we're wearing jackets, all that, but don't pan to the audience at this point. So you can see this, people can see this. We believe it is so important that our residents get out to vote. And your track record as this precinct is wonderful. We had 90% plus voters for the presidential. Last year in our local vote, we had the highest percentage in all of Venice. So congratulations to our Venice residents. Your vote means something. The other thing is that I would advise you, this is just my viewpoint, to vote by mail. I read in the newspaper recently there are a lot of amendments. Therefore, they'll be quite crowded up here. So if you can vote early, great, and you're going to have the information tonight. At the end of the meeting, we're going to have a table of information that is produced by the League of Women Voters, wonderful group, nonpartisan, and you can read all of that information. We have a full slate. We're going to handle tonight the city race and the county commissioner's race. Now, we've held this for a number of years, and I need to say to the people running, we have great respect for you. We appreciate people ready to throw their hats into the ring and to say, hey, I'm here to help, whether you win or lose. And I know our audience, by their demeanor, respects that, so you can be guaranteed we're going to have a great audience. We don't have questions. You were able to send me questions. I'm sure we don't applaud or anything. We just want to be good listeners with all of that. All right? So we have a couple introductions also tonight that I want to make. And the first is we have a co-host. First time. Jackie Greasy, a resident. Stand up, Jackie. No offense, but Mr. Hartigan said he's tired of hearing me just talk. I know the rest of you feel that way too. So Jackie, welcome aboard. We do have a number of people on the ballot, and one of which is unopposed, and that is our wonderful resident and city council person. And I said, Rich, I know you can take hours and people want to listen to you. We're going to have a special day with Rich later, sponsored by the Community Association, but he's on the ballot. So I wanted to give one of our residents and council person an opportunity, just say a few minutes of remarks. Rich Cotero. Rick?
Well, thank you, Roger. And I am running unopposed this year. I'll be beginning my second term in November. And it's an honor and a privilege to serve all the citizens of Venice. It really, really is. I enjoyed my first term, and I'm really looking forward to the second term. I'd like to thank the Community Association because they do a wonderful job putting a lot of events together during the year. They just do great work, and I urge you to support them. Many of you know me, and I want to thank many people in the audience who volunteered to work on my campaign. I really do appreciate that. There are 1,400 homes here. I don't know everyone, so I'll just give you some brief background. My wife, Linda, and I have lived here for about 12 years, and my background is in the business sector. I worked for 30 years in the Kraft Foods affiliated group of companies. Some of my roles were Chief Financial Officer of the Maxwell House Division, as well as Vice President of Finance and Strategy for the Altria Group, which was the parent at the time. So my background is primarily business-oriented. People ask me all the time, what do I think the biggest issues with the city, concerning the city, are right now? What are the biggest challenges? And they change every 6 months. But right now I have to tell you that in my mind, I believe that fiscal management, growth management, as well as the red tide dilemma are the three biggest issues I think facing the city as I speak to you today. Financial management from the point of view that I'm very cognizant that many citizens in Venice are on a fixed income. We have a $100 million budget, 30 of which is the general fund. And I must say that I hear you loud and clear. I get a lot of feedback almost on a weekly basis. I hear you loud and clear that you want to keep your taxes at a reasonable level. And I can assure you that I'm going to continue to be an advocate for that. As far as, I'm going to move very quickly here because I only have 5 minutes, the boss will get rid of me. As far as growth management is concerned, which is, I feel, the next challenge, I think it's very important for the developers to pay 100% of the impact fees that they're levied, without exception and without waivers. I think that's important. You might recall in 2017 we had a 510-unit apartment complex on Knights Trail Road. I voted no for that. I was in the minority. But the two reasons why I voted against it was very dense. The density of 510 units I thought was incompatible with the surrounding area. But the second reason was that the applicant materials at the time requested a waiver of their impact fees. So I voted no against that. It was never built anyway because they just couldn't get the proper financing. The third and last issue that I want to discuss very briefly is the red tide issue. It's a dilemma, it's a crisis, but I can tell you that the city is working on it. We know the severity and we're on it. We've taken a number of steps. One step is to step up our monitoring of our outfalls or our outlets into the Gulf to make sure that everything that's being during that route, those outfalls are safe. And they're not harmful, no harmful materials. So we're monitoring that very closely. We've also stepped up our education on fertilizer use and application, and we've encouraged people to voluntarily question the use of fertilizer. And I think that's important. And thirdly, we've sent a letter to the governor asking for more research funding, which I think is very important. We also received a grant thanks to our city manager, our fine city manager, Ed Lavalli, who also lives in the Venetian. He applied for a state grant. We received $98,000 to assist us in cleaning up the beaches. So we're all appreciative of that. So thank you for your time. I was able to convert my campaign literature to information cards. So I will be in the back of the room at the end of this session. And I will gladly answer any questions you may have, and I'll hand you these cards out. Believe me, I get contacted all the time by residents. Don't be surprised if you send me an email that I will call you back. That's my preferred way of communicating. I will also have an information session here sometime in the first quarter. And I've done that in 2016. I did it in May of 2018. I speak for about 15, 20 minutes, and I take an hour's worth of questions. I call it a lightning round. And you can just shoot any question you want, and I will answer it. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find out for you. So I want to thank you very much for your continued support, and thanks for being here today and showing interest in all of these campaigns. Thank you.
Thank you. Why we, Mr. Mokel, bring in the candidates, we're ready for our city candidates to come up. So I'd like to introduce some other people. One is our other council representative who is here tonight, and she just is going to be introduced. She's not on the ballot, got another 2 years, and that's Mitzi Fiedler. Mitzi? And you'll see somebody else on the ballot, and that person is for the hospital, and he's been on the hospital board, and he's been chair of the hospital board. And the nice thing about him, he's also a resident. As you see, we're getting represented here. Joe DiVirgilio. Joe? And Rich, you mentioned it, and I don't know if the camera can pan over here, but we're fortunate to have a wonderful city manager. He's somewhat shy, but I don't care. But he deserves one round of applause that is so loud. Yes. I need help with a ticket that I got the other day. So, we're now ready for our wonderful city council race. And I will say to the two of you, Ms. Mora, it's the first time I've met you, thank you.
Thank you.
That we're going to go through questions that Jackie and I are going to give. We're going to sort of use our subjectivity, but try to keep it as narrow as possible answering the question. We'll let you know if it's a little too long. We got a lot of questions, and we have very much interested. We have a packed house, as you see, and we're want to welcome you to our very fine community. So, you're on.
Okay, you guys understand how hard it is for Roger to pass that mic to somebody else? I was shocked when he asked me to share the podium with him tonight, so I consider it a real honor to be here and to be introducing and helping to ask some of these questions tonight. So just to get some general housekeeping out of the way, want to ask the Helen and Fred, are we okay to call you by the first name?
Please do.
Okay, awesome. Didn't know if we should call Miss and Mr. And then the other one would be, what we thought the best thing to do is we're going to ask the question, and then we would like to have the incumbent respond first, followed by his opponent. And if at any time you need the question to be reread, please feel free to ask me to do that. And we're going to give you between 2 to 3 minutes to respond to these questions. Some may not take as long, so if they don't, that's quite all right. And others may take a little longer, and if so, we'll give you a little extra time there. Are we good?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. And as Roger said earlier, you probably were not here. These questions really came from our community. So it's a compilation of a lot of questions that have come forth. So we're hoping we're going to try to capture everything today. So here we go. Please share with us your qualifications for this critical position and why you're interested in retaining it, Fred, or gaining it, Helen. There's your mic.
Okay. Is it on?
Hello. Okay. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm in severe back pain, so if I make a funny face, I'm not mad at Helen. I just got like a stabbing thing in my back, and I couldn't take drugs because I had to drive over here. So if I pass out, don't be alarmed. All right. So anyway, well, I've got 3 years as council under my belt, and I learned a lot, and there's a lot more to learn. Originally, I just wanted to save some trees and wildlife corridors and maybe make the buffers a little bit bigger. I talked many times to Barry Snyder, accolades to Barry. He's put a lot of effort into the comprehensive plan, and so is Helen. We have a lot of gifted people in this room. Tom Jones, he kind of inspired me to run also. I worked with him on the Environmental Advisory Board. So I've got three years as councilman, several years on the Environmental Advisory Board. I was on the Traffic Advisory Task Force. I've been on boards in my Sawgrass community. I'm a veteran. My dad was a retired veteran. So there's a lot of discipline in my family and a lot of talking and understanding. I think the most important thing is the foundation of giving back. And Stella and I, my wife, we've been married for over 50 years. We met at church, and through our church, we realized giving back to the community was important. So that's the foundation. At the age of 14, we realized community giving back was very, very important. So I could go on forever, but I don't really need to.
All right, thank you. That's great. Helen?
Hi. Well, I've spent the last 5 years spending a lot of time with Barry Snyder also. Is this, I don't know,
Maybe a little closer.
Okay. On the Planning Commission. So we've rewritten the comprehensive plan and are now kind of, a little greater than knee-deep into the land development regulations. It's been a real learning experience and something I'm really proud of too. Making it's a blueprint for how we can keep Venice and do the best job we can for it. I've moved here from Terre Haute, Indiana, almost 30 years ago. I've been a realtor here for 26 years now. So I've known a lot of the communities that are here before they were even here. I'm grateful to be here. I've never done this before, so I'm kind of new at the whole candidacy. But I've served in leadership committees in Venice, in the realtor world on a state level as well as locally and nationally. Been a leader in the Chamber, in Venice Main Street. I've been involved, I'm now very involved in Venice Area Beautification, Inc., and the Legacy Trail, and the urban forest that is new and just getting off the ground and is amazing. I could talk about that for a long time. But I feel like this is a good time for me to do this. I'd been approached in previous years, and the time just didn't feel right. With all respect to Fred, I'm looking forward to a good race and an even race, and respect to everybody.
All right, thank you. Okay, so just a moment ago, Rich referred, he mentioned red tide. And so we're going to approach that topic now with the two of you. So as red tide continues to be a hot topic for our community, and we're concerned about just our community right now in our city of Venice, we'd like to know if the Venice City Council believes they should own any of the red tide issues, and if so, to what extent, and if not, why? So Fred, we'll start with you.
The red tide is a big issue, and it's a hot topic because it's an election year. There's a number of things I could talk about, but as far as the city of Venice goes, we already initiated fertilizer information through our water bills, and it's a volunteer process. So we want people to cut back or not use fertilizer, and you can't tell people what to do. You can educate them, and that's what I said. You have to work through your HOAs and let people know how critical it is. Because we have a lot of people are 6 and 6. They come down here and they want green grass just like they have in Michigan, and they over-fertilize. So we need to educate the public about how crucial this is. Then another major issue is septic systems. Our regulations are if you've got a house and the pipe is within 100 feet, you've got a year to hook up. 1 year if you build a new house. And there have been people on the island that got the bypass for over 10 years. And that's wrong. Can't play favorites. If you have a rule, everybody has to go by that. South Venice, they need to extend the sewerage there. That's not in the city limits, and we also need to be, the 7 of us, need to be focused on working with the county, and even the county can't just wave a magic wand and make the red tide go away. We need to work with the state. The money that's Governor Scott just released, we need the proper oversight to make sure that's not wasted. This is horrendous. Our tourism is going to feel it. Our businesses are 40 to 50% down. This is the most serious thing I've ever experienced in the state of Florida. And I've been here since the 90s. So we need to work with everybody, every elected official, and residents need to be aware. They need to do their part. We need to change the way we live. We need to be engaged.
Thank you. Helen?
Well, it is a huge puzzle, and it's made up of a lot of little pieces, and we're one of those little pieces. But even the little pieces go together to help to solve the whole big picture. In addition to citizen outreach and promoting, encouraging things that the state law won't let us institute, just law or rules to cut off fertilizer. But also the city itself has to model that behavior at the same time that we're educating the homeowners and the property owners here. And I think some steps have already been taken in that as far as reducing the city's use of dangerous and damaging substances and of monitoring what's there, how efficient our runoff water is, making it as good as it can be. And that has to be our excellent piece of going to the puzzle. Working with other municipalities, with the county, with the state. It's going to take all of that.
Okay, thank you. So Fred, we've been asked as a community, we wanted to just say to you, thank you for serving on the council, as you have. And so with that, the question has been raised. What have you learned during this time? And were you surprised by anything in particular? And if so, could you share it?
Nobody likes to pay taxes. I'm stuttering up here because people want to throw rotten tomatoes at me when I say this, but the taxes in the city of Venice are low. And for example, if we all lived in Fort Myers, that has an 8.25 mill rate, and they have a fire fee. We won't have to talk about that. I won't bring that up again. I'm just giving you an example. So the taxes are relatively low. You can disagree with me, that's fine. And when I got on council, I didn't realize the shortage, the impact it was having on some of the buildings. One building in particular was the Triangle Inn. I'm kind of a history buff, and we have two buildings in the city that really need some TLC, and one of them is the Triangle Inn. And I don't want to go on forever, but the windows, doors, the flooring, when you crawl underneath the building, the airspace, that needs to be vented, and they'd ignored it for a long period of time. I'm not talking about a leak in the roof. The rain was pouring in. One of the employees came to me in tears. She was concerned about some of the exhibits being destroyed because of the water coming in there. So if the city had the money to take care of that, I'm sure they would have. Another big issue was the old police station. The roof, I guess, had been repaired a couple of times, but when I talked to the employees, it was still leaking. And one day coming back from a meeting, I stopped in, and the officer in charge of evidence, she brought me back and wanted to see what was going on. This room, 20 by 20, full of evidence. She had a tarp covering the evidence and a trash barrel. And she went up on the roof to move the roofing material around so the rain would come in, hit the tarp, go into the barrel, and she would bring that out. Well, I kind of convinced Ed LaValle to go over there with me, and we went up on the roof together. And now the roof is fixed properly. I mean, the lightning rods were hanging down like this. The wood bracket had rotted away. So again, it's just another example. They didn't have the money to take care of the buildings. These are assets that belong to the taxpayers. It's imperative that we take care of the buildings. Fire Station 1, I could go on about that, but in working with other members of the council, you've got your own ideas, and trying to build a consensus sometimes is
Okay, Fred,
difficult.
sorry, but we're going to have you wrap that. Sorry.
That's okay.
We did let you go over 3 minutes. So, Helen, we've got a different question for you because obviously not having served on council, but we do understand, as you previously mentioned, you have served in a leadership position within the city and in the community. And so with that, we thought, well, maybe we can draw on from you. What are your strengths that you will bring to the council should you get there? What kind of strengths will you bring? And how will that benefit then the city council?
One of the really wonderful things about the Planning Commission that sits now is it's a really collegial group. We respect one another. We deal with one another in, just civil, decent terms. We don't always think the same thing, but we come to an accord, and then we all stand by it. We don't go back and say, oh, so-and-so did, shouldn't have done that, or they said that. It's a really respectful body, and that's how I conduct myself, and that's how I conduct myself as a council person. Everyone needs to, we say, oh, we have to work with the county, or we have to work with the state, but we have to work with each other as well. And I would use the Planning Commission as a good example of a body that does that for sure. I've learned a lot from working on the comprehensive plan. It's so big and covers really so many elements of the city we live in, things that we don't think about. Everyone wants what's most dear to them to be important, and it is, and everyone's important things are important, but they can't all just happen the way people might think they logically could, because there are steps and there are stages and there are reasons why things may or may not be done. So articulating that, listening carefully, which I believe is one of my skills in real estate as well as on planning commission, and doing the work to come to the best decisions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this next round of questions, Rich had a phrase, but it's really more of it's kind of a rapid fire, if you will. And what we want to hear from you is your position and a very brief explanation why. So I'll read off the first question. Give us your position. And Ed, Fred, you did mention something about this earlier. But let's go and we'll see how this turns out. So the first question is, what's your position on consolidation of the fire department and why? Fred.
My position right now, without any additional information.
In 1 minute.
1 minute,
I
okay.
just got orders from headquarters.
I don't want consolidation. They tried it before. Morale went way down, and Sean had to bring it back. And we're a municipality. We should be able to take care of the services that you people want. And fire department, police department, those are important.
Thank you.
I agree. It's been discussed and failed. And one of the reasons that maybe people aren't fully aware of is because it wouldn't just be, oh, here, county, come and help us. We would have to bring our buildings up to speed. We would have to bring our equipment up to speed. We would have to bring our unfunded retirement up to speed. If we're going to do all of that, why do it for the county? Let's do it for ourselves and for our own. Agree, it's a municipality and this is a municipal service that the citizens of Venice deserve. I think there's also a misconception that should we join the county, we would escape having a fire fee or any extra assessment for fire, but the county has a fire fee. Let's remember that.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to the next one. Here we go. Increased taxation to support our city operations. Fred, you have it again.
We might have to raise taxes again. I'm not going to advocate for that now. We have to wait and see how things roll out in the year 2019. Without raising the mill rate, the value of your home goes up anyway. And next City Hall meeting, I want to jump the gun, but we have some city assets, and they're between $3 and $4 million. If we can sell those assets, put it in the general fund, and use that to address fire, the station, or the parks implementation, or pensions, or something like that. So that's a big chunk of change, $3 or $4 million. And once that property is sold, it's going to come back on the tax rolls. So we are looking at different things, and we are very conscious.
Time,
okay.
Right. I'm proud of the budget that, obviously by state mandate it has to be balanced, and it is every year. It is not a fatty budget. I've done deep dives into it, even though I don't sit on the council, because it affects everything. There are going to be emerging needs. Red tide has been an absolute example of that. Things that you can't plan in, really. There are going to be things that are going to come up. We can't do it with a one-time sell-off of property or one-time come up with a single bullet to cure it. Things have to be paid for one way or another, and it's going to take a lot of work.
Okay, thank you. Next, we would like your position on affordable housing and why. Fred.
We definitely need to take care of the people that are not well off living in gated communities. And we need to find the right funding for it. Maybe Knight's Trail. Once Knight's Trail is opened up, that was one of the sticking points last time that was brought up to us. funding it's really crazy. The land is so expensive down here, and the materials. I mean, you can go to Home Depot and look at the cost of a 2x4. So this is really difficult. And the pay scales, we need to raise the pay scales. Your business owners probably don't want to hear about that, but we need a working wage for people so they can live, so they can survive. And that doesn't always happen everywhere.
The City of Venice is not now, and in my opinion, should not ever be in the housing business. That is for the private sector. And in the case of more affordable housing, it is land acquisition costs that drive that. Everyone, we all who are here want our property values to stay high and get higher, and we don't want something near us that we think will reduce that. There has to be a private sector, and maybe along with the faith-based sector, along with other maybe non-profit organizations that are going to be able to figure that out. And what the city can do in that regard is make sure that there are zoning designations in place. For instance, the new comp plan has brought in a mixed-use designation. So things like that there are no huge stretches of land that are going to turn into quote-unquote affordable housing. But there are places where the private sector can make it happen if there's a will to.
You know, another big issue right here in the Venetian is the word growth. Good growth, bad growth, managed growth. Is growth solvable? And we'll start with you, Ms. Moore. Is it solvable?
Well, about 1,000 people a day move to Florida all year long, and a few of them maybe even end up here. So it's a population situation that, we can't stop at the borderline. Growth is an inevitability, but it needs to be smart. Again, I'm going to go back to this wonderful new comp plan of ours, is to keep the density and intensity so that where homes are built, they're not going to be suffocating everything around them or the land that they're on. We can't just start taking reservations and wait till somebody leaves for us to allow anyone else to come to Venice. That's just not going to happen. The population will grow, but we need to do it in an emerging new way that keeps the look and the feel of Venice.
Fred? Growth? Solvable?
Some people might think if somebody owns 500 acres or 1,000 acres of land, we can say, hey, builder, leave it alone, leave it for the critters. You can't do that. The state has stiff guidelines, and county has to follow those guidelines, and so does the City of Venice. What we should do is to raise the impact fees to where it would probably slow down development a little bit, and take some of the, really going on a stretch here, take the excess money, if there is some, at the county and the city level, and then use that to structure affordable housing. And that's something that would have to be talked about with some of the big builders. I won't name anybody, and the county. I mean, if we talked about this at Convocation of Governments, that might be a good place for that. But school impact fees, not to pick on the school board, but they're set at 25%. And when Lori White was superintendent, she wanted at least 50%. I tried to back her up, and I was chastised for that. So we need to have development pay more of its own way.
Okay, thank you. We want to take a break, the two of us. So we'll start with Fred. Ask her a question if you want to.
I think he said if you want to. You don't.
We only got 1 minute.
Okay. What was the best day you had on the planning committee?
Probably the day that the comprehensive plan was awarded by the state for being one of the best comprehensive plans awarded.
I can imagine, yeah.
Now, your turn.
really want to do this?
Okay, the question, Fred, is do you really want to do this again? Or do you want to pull out and let her get the seat?
I'm sorry, I was being lighthearted.
Oh, that's okay. Politicians are lighthearted on Thursdays. Go ahead. Do you have any questions?
No, obviously he wants to do it, or we wouldn't be sitting here.
Do
I'm
you have
sorry.
any questions?
I don't. I'm proud that we have decent people who want to do this job.
Okay. Is there a question, Fred, you hoped I was going to ask, or we were going to ask that we didn't ask?
I can't think of any. If there's
Okay.
somebody from the audience wants to hit us with something, more than welcome.
No, we have to keep them quiet. Okay? We're paying for the videotaping, so they got to be on me and Jackie. Any questions that we should have asked, that you were expecting that we didn't ask?
I think we covered. I would be speechifying instead of asking a question.
Okay. Finally, why should I vote for you, Ms. Moore?
I can think of 4 reasons that I think are the top 4 reasons. One is the environment. And by the environment, I don't mean just the beaches or the waterways or the golf courses or the conservation land or the parks. I mean our entire environment, and that includes the homes we live in. And the whole look and feel of Venice is a huge concern of mine. Second is public safety. And that doesn't just mean police and fire. It means our water, our utilities, our traffic. Those are all wound up together. And they're also part of our environment. The third is a fiscal question. We are going to have emerging needs. Things are not going to become cheaper, just like our own individual home budgets. We have to plan smart in all kinds of ways, not just with our environment, but also with our budgets. Our citizens deserve the best that they can have for the money that they pay on their taxes.
Fred, why should I vote, Joe Brady?
Helen and I are very similar on the environment. That's one of my pet peeves. That's why I ran the woods development, if I can use that. 151 acres of FEMA floodplain, and they're going to put slab houses in there. And if they're going to build, they're clearing it now, but if they could build something other than a slab house, you might see it down the Keys or an upper part of Florida. They're nice homes, but they're elevated. So you don't have to worry about our first responders going in there trying to bring people out. And there's only one way in and one way out. I really have a problem with that. The emergency exit is on Jackson Road, and Jackson Road floods. That whole development in there in Elliott and Palm, that floods almost every year. We need to be conscious not of just the people in the city limits, but people just outside the city limits. We're all human beings. We need to learn to get together and understand our values and where we're coming from. If we can't build consensus everywhere, we're going to have nothing. You've already seen the red tide. We need to work together to resolve these issues.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Frazee and Helen Moore, give them a round of applause.
Thank you. I hope you're feeling better.
Like big television, while you're in transition,
Okay, we're in transition.
we wanted to introduce 2 people who are going to be on the CDD who are running unopposed. We'd like to acknowledge Jerry Jasper, who is not here, who is coming off, and our good friend Harry Ornstein over there, who is coming off of the CDD. Thank you, Jerry and Harry. And coming to their place will be 2 wonderful people. And Rick and Cafferty, would you like to say a few words?
I'm Rick McCafferty. I was born and raised in Chicago. Before I knew that I was going to run unopposed, I was going to ask you to vote early and often. Can't do that anymore. My education, I went to Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina for my bachelor's degree, and went to Loyola University for my master's. I've been a principal. I was an educator, 10 years as a junior high teacher, and 28 years as a principal in the Archdiocese of Chicago. So I have a lot of experience in meetings, both good and bad. I look forward to serving on the board. I guess I'd call myself a fiscal conservative because in the Catholic schools, we had to find out how to do a lot with a little. So I hope I can do the same here. Thank you.
Thank you and good luck. And the second person is Steve Kleinglass. I'm sorry. Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Kleinglass. I live at 114 Larita Court, and my wife Nestor and I came here in 2011, and for a few years we were seasonal people, and now we're here full time. I spent nearly 40 years in the healthcare arena, retiring recently as the medical center director and chief executive officer of a large teaching, patient care, and research institution. I served this community in two other capacities. First, as the Facilities Advisory Committee Chair, and secondly, as the chair of this renovation of the club. So if you're happy with it, see me. If you're not happy with it, see Rick. This is where I'm going to live. I have one move left, and you can guess where that move may be. So I think it's important to serve the community, and I think what you'll get with me is I'm my own person. I don't listen to the rumors or the gossip. I'm not interested in that. And I pledge to you I'm going to do what's right for everybody in this community. So thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for serving our community. I wanted to mention to you that on October 15th, 2 weeks from now, the state rep race is a very, very tough race now. A lot of attention is going to be directed to the three people running. So the Community Association, in the interest of informing you, we're going to have another forum just featuring that race. And you're going to see more and more publicity about that. And by the way, we have other things that are coming up that are going to be great. We have CPR training, which is going to occur in November. It's going to be posted on our website if you want to sign up. Then we're also going to have, in January, we're going to have our Bike-a-rama. You get your bike test. We have another event called Show Off, where people are showing off their stuff. We're going to have a volunteer fair. If you ever want to volunteer, we're going to bring like Habitat and other organizations in here. So we have a complete menu for you as the residents from our community association. So now let's move. This is going to be challenging. We got 4 people, and they are very, very good people, but we got to watch their time. Why don't you introduce yourself first instead of, well, let me introduce you. Christian Ziegler, is that right?
Yep.
Nice meeting you. Now, Ruth.
It's going to be Ruta. You must.
Ruta. Yeah, we put an A there. I misspelled it. Somebody who fixed it. Ruth, how do you pronounce your last name?
Jinyari.
Okay. Alan Mayo. And finally, Wesley Beggs. Now, there are 2 seats that are up, but you'll vote for them individually. Seat 2, who's running for seat 2? Very good. Seat 4. So, you'll vote separately, and you'll see that on your ballot. Okay? So, as County Commissioner, very good. Sarasota County Commissioner. All right? So, we have some questions, and why don't you start?
Okay, he has given it back to me. This is a major miracle. I hope you guys know this. Of course, don't get used to it. I know. It's a 1 and out. I'm positive of that. Anyway, all right. Thanks again, everyone, for being here this evening. So we'll start off, Christian, with you. We'll give you a couple, like 2 to 3 minutes to respond. And if you would, we'll just go down the table. Is that okay? Because since there are 4, it's not as easy to navigate it the way we did it just a while ago. Is that okay, Roger? Where'd my boss go? Is that okay? Okay, so here we go. Have you ever been a lone wolf on a political issue? And if so, please tell us how you handled it.
Yeah, and first I just want to thank everyone for inviting me here. Big fan of this community. I've worked for Congressman Vern Buchanan for years. I was here for the Chinese drywall issue that you guys suffered, some of your residents. was able to tour those homes multiple times, work with those residents to try and get relief for them. So very familiar with this community. That was probably about 10 years ago or 12 years ago that we did that. But as for your question, there's been countless issues that I've been the lone wolf on, I guess. One that specifically deals with the Sarasota County Commission is I've been involved with the Republican Party for over 10 years. I'm the current state committee man for the Republican Party. But we made a decision, it was probably almost 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. One of the county commissioners was thinking about challenging the term limits that were imposed on the county commission. And residents came together in Sarasota County, decided that we needed term limits for our county commissioners. One of our county commissioners was thinking about, maybe not following it or challenging it. I led the effort, or I helped lead the effort with the Republican Party to take a stand on that, even though it was a Republican that was elected. We decided to take a strong stand against that, and we pressed hard against that. And the reason why it was so important to me is, look, term limits, I think I can see term limits on both sides, right? But once the people decide on something and the people make a decision, then I believe that we should enact their will. And the voters were pretty clear when they enacted term limits. That's something that we pushed, maybe a little unpopular with some Republicans, but I think it was the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ruta Gignari. One of the things, I actually ran for State House 72 against Representative Margaret Good, who beat James Buchanan in a special election back in December. One of the things that was probably the most unpopular thing that I had brought up was a single-payer healthcare system. I've worked in healthcare a majority of my life. I actually was an executive with Aetna U.S. Healthcare and network developing the East Coast. In developing the East Coast for healthcare systems, especially in the HMO and PPO side of businesses. In doing so, after leaving that, I started my own company about 14 years ago, and what I saw is a need in Sarasota County of people who have no health care insurance. And I was pretty much the lone wolf saying against Margaret, because she wanted Medicare expansion, Medicaid expansion, and to still put it to private industry. The reason why I believe in single payer system is it would just be something that would be a given, that we don't have to struggle. Are you going to pay for rent? Are you going to pay for food? And that healthcare should be a right for everyone. So what I did is, instead, 2 years ago, I co-founded a free medical clinic, and it's self-funded. And I, myself and a group of physicians, provide healthcare insurance to those who have no healthcare insurance. And it's not for the poor. The poor have Medicare and Medicaid in particular. But what it is it's working poor. It's people who work in service industries and people who just can't make ends meet. So this is one of the biggest challenges that I had faced. Thank you.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do, because we don't really want to cut you off. It's rude. It's viewed as rude, and we get that. So our buddy here is going to sit here, and we've been putting you on a timer. He'll just put this sign up so you'll know when it's getting close. That way you guys can wrap it up in your own way. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay, Al, we're going to give it to you now with that same question. You got it?
Okay, well, asking somebody if they've ever been a lone wolf is a little odd. I was the first one to bring up several subjects, many subjects. So let me go over one. Orange Hammock, 5,774 acres. I pushed that the county buy it in cooperation with other jurisdictions. It is not true that we're going to build on every square inch. 1/3 of Sarasota County is already in public ownership forever. Orange Hammock sits next to the Peace River Water Authority. For the second year in a row, I'm chairman of it. Before that, I was vice chairman. It's at least $20 million, and I cobbled together with absolute wonderful support unanimously from 4 county commissions, the Peace River Water Authority. No different than the people who raise their eyebrows about your subdivision, which, as the principal owner of an engineering firm, I won this account. There was one dead pine tree in the middle of this place, and I took an aerial, drew a line, where all the rest of the trees were, varying in width from 220 feet to 980 feet. And that's your current day preserve that's part of your common area. So sometimes you are a lone wolf because people want no new developments. So I guess if that's the case and they want to make it retroactive, this beautiful place that I have my heart and soul in, 1,400 families need to leave.
Okay, thank you.
I can't say that I have truly ever been a lone wolf. I'm a big, big fan of collaboration and working together and building coalitions and things like that. So I've never truly stood solitary on any issue. But I will say, especially on the campaign trail, I often find myself as a young professional here. A lot of people can sometimes have a hard time relating to some of the things that I'm talking about. And why they should care about some of these issues with our young professionals that I'm bringing up. But I would encourage all of you in this room to think back in the last 24 hours. The receptionist at your podiatrist's office, someone serving your food, the workforce, by and large across the county, they are young professionals and they're struggling. And I know that we can sometimes go through our day-to-day lives and not see that struggle, but almost half of our county cannot afford to pay rent right now. We are facing low wages. I myself, I graduated from college in Sarasota County, and when I graduated, I had 3 roommates and 4 jobs, and when we were all still struggling to make ends meet. And that is not a sustainable economic model. It just isn't, no matter which way you slice that cake. So sometimes it can feel like I'm the lone wolf in the room trying to relay what the next generation, what the next workforce really needs out of our government and the type of help and support that they need. But I will always be a tireless advocate of that because they are our future. They're our economy going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, we can just leave it there and bring it back down the line if you want. Okay, so here we go. So, and possibly some of you have maybe never served in the government capacity at this point. Just try to take this question and deal with it how you think you would handle it if you were in that position. So it seems like, and again, this question came from our audience. So we live in a day of government paralysis where there's little, if any, consensus or compromise. What are your thoughts on this? And will you be the same or different? Please take about 2 minutes to answer that.
I think there are a lot of people in this room that can be very frustrated with this kind of partisan gridlock that we're seeing all over the country, national, state, even local politics. I abhor that. I think that if you are going to serve, you absolutely need to be collaborative. You need to be able to work with people across the aisle of different backgrounds, of different religions and values and things like that. I actually taught mediation and conflict resolution in 3 high schools here in Sarasota County. I taught them how to work together despite their differences. I taught them to find common ground, the middle ground, and I think that that's the piece that is missing on a lot of levels of government, this sense of a shared future. We are all in this together, and the consequences of overdevelopment, of environmental degradation, they don't care if you are Republican or independent or Democrat or who you are. They will find you. Those consequences will find you. It is imperative that we elect people that are capable of working together because our future depends on it.
Thank you.
Okay, same question. I've been your county commissioner for almost the last 4 years, and I've served with 6 other county commissioners. And I've been blessed that there has been no rancor or animosity there. And I don't think that's something that happens in Sarasota County commissioners, no matter who ultimately gets elected here. We don't have all 5-0 votes. There are 4 1s and 3 2s, but people know how to treat each other and respect each other. We had a big division last summer 2017, for fiscal year 2018, which started October 1st of last year. 2 commissioners wanted a tax increase, 3 didn't. We all spoke our piece. I spoke for no tax increase and no 5% public service tax. The vote was taken. There were no minority reports issued. There were no recriminations week after week after week. None of that. We got through fiscal year 2018, and the budget is in great shape. We show no shortfall for fiscal year 2019, which starts October 1st, and none for the following fiscal year, 2020.
Thank you, Al.
As far as gridlock, I think for our county commissioners' meetings that I've attended, I don't see animosity. I truly don't when in attending those meetings. And I don't think, actually, sorry about that. And I don't think, regardless of who gets elected, I think we ultimately have to work as a team because we represent you. We don't represent ourselves. We speak for you, the people who put us in office. And ultimately, we have to answer back to you for what we decide. So I think it does cross party lines. I think ultimately we all don't want red tide. We don't want overdevelopment. We want good infrastructure. These are things we all care about. So I think the gridlock, it may occur perhaps on a higher level, but I think on the county level, we drive the same roads regardless of what party we belong to. We want the best for all of us. So I think as a commissioner for the county, we take it as a profession. So you sit at the table like a boardroom in a company together and you iron things out.
Great, thank you.
Yes, so actually what's interesting is every year we do what's called a citizens opinion survey in Sarasota County. That the county goes out there, they do a survey, a poll of the residents. And what you find is, and it makes a lot of sense, is number one, our citizens here locally and probably around the country think Congress is a nightmare, right? Turn on the TV, that's all you have to do, and you figure out Washington. Doesn't matter what side you're on, it's a complete disaster. It gets better when you get to the state level in Tallahassee, and then it gets even better when you get to the county level here in Sarasota County. And we have, if you just ask our citizens, 97% of our citizens say that living in Sarasota County is either excellent or a good quality of life. And I think we're fortunate because Sarasota County is a place that people want to move to. Many of you work your entire lives to earn the right to move to Sarasota County. I think our county commission has done a good job. I think they keep taxes low for us, and that's what we all work for. You guys worked hard for your money. You should keep as much money of your money as possible. And second, so I want to work with people like Al Mayo and Paul Caragiulo, who's the current county commissioner there, has endorsed me, and he's the one that came and recruited me to actually run. Instead of getting termed out, he's leaving 4 years early because he said, look, I'm going to run for re-election unless I can recruit you to run for my seat. So I thought about it. That's why I got in. But the second part is in government, you have to have relationships to get things done. And what I'll share with you is Governor Rick Scott has endorsed my campaign. Congressman Vern Buchanan has endorsed my campaign. Joe Gruters, who's going to most likely be your next state senator here, has endorsed my campaign. Most of the local state reps I've helped get elected, from Venice City Commission all the way up. So, I have the relationships with them. I will work with them on day one to make sure that we're getting our fair share in Sarasota County and we're getting the services and the expectations that you guys have done are delivered on.
Thanks, Christian. Okay, I'm going to borrow this mic here because ours is going dead. So while earlier you guys were sitting here during our city council questions, and we don't want you to think this is all about the council tonight. So why should we as a group care or be concerned about who sits on our commission seat?
Well, when you look at Sarasota County, we have about 410,000 residents in Sarasota County. And County Commission has oversight, obviously, over the entire county, but then the cities have their jurisdictions and their oversight. But really everything that we do as a whole in the county, and this is why I oppose the single-member district issue, which I'm sure will come up as a question. If not, maybe that's a question that we ask ourselves. But we're all in this together. What happens in Sarasota affects Venice. What happens in Northport affects Venice, and vice versa. We have a lot of great stuff that's going to be happening in Sarasota County, across the entire county. And my job on the Sarasota County Commission is to make sure that we're the number one place to do business, for businesses to recruit, to businesses to grow, and businesses to start, which I've had experience with a startup, but also the number one place to go to school. My wife is chair of the school board, Bridget Ziegler, so very involved with the school issues in Sarasota County. Number one place to retire. We need many of you. I mean, you guys picked moving to Sarasota County. This was an option for most of you. I'm sure not many of you are homegrown, but we need to make Sarasota County the best place to live, period. I'm sure a lot of you go up to Siesta Key Beach, which we have direct oversight over with our parks and beaches. So that's why it's so important for you guys. You guys pay a lot of taxes. Those taxes get divvied up and they get spread out around the county.
Okay.
And I want to do whatever I can to deliver for you guys.
Okay, thank you. Next.
I think county commissioner is probably one of the most underrated positions in government. Anytime you leave your home, you're affected by county commissioner's decisions normally, whether it's you're sitting in traffic and the roads haven't been expanded, a road is flooded and there's not proper drainage and stormwater runoff. Anytime you go to the beach and you see fecal matter levels at your beach where you can't enter, these are things that our county commissioner is responsible for. And these are the things that we need to fix as a commission. And the reason it's so important, it affects every single one of us on a daily level. Like I said, as soon as you leave, you're affected by some decision. Infrastructure is massive. Environmental protections, making sure that your county commissioner isn't going to cover up protected wetlands, that we do have wildlife corridors, and that's part of why we all moved here. So the reason county commissioner is so important is because it does represent daily life for all of us, and I think it's critical that you choose the right people to represent you, because you, like I said, we represent you. Thank you.
Well, I sold my stock in my firm 4 years ago at 64 years old, 4.5 years ago at this point, because this is what I wanted to do at 64 years old. I'd take it and do it full time. I read every email that I get, including the nasty, vulgar, threatening ones. I am not afraid to talk to anyone or call anyone. Since elected, 3 years and 10 months ago, I've given over 200 speeches before all sorts of professional groups and homeowners associations. I started out on a path 4 years ago about buying environmental land, adjusting the budget, River Road, and affordable housing. It's not something that's been suddenly on the horizon for county commissioners. That was abrupt, but I just got the flag.
No.
Oh.
You still have time, sorry.
Oh, okay.
He was being premature. He wants the mic back.
Oh, my gosh.
So you still have time.
All right, well, on affordable housing, I'm halfway through codifying 6 new rules that will make it easier and less expensive for affordable housing to be built. 3 are already endorsed, 3 more are about to be voted on. River Road, with the help of my friends as state representatives and state senators, we're doing a road swap because FDOT will not give us money for a county road. These are, and Orange Hammock is a $20 million purchase that will add 6,000 acres, which is a big, wide corridor for wildlife, undisturbed from the Myakka River to the Peace River. These are the type of things that I fought for. Affordable housing, I can tell you, time. Okay, I'll save it for the next one.
Well, I echo what some of the other candidates have already said. Obviously, every time you step out your door, you're confronted with decisions that are being made by the county commission. But I do want to stress the importance, because the county controls the budget. Something that Commissioner Mayo had previously said, that the county budget is in great shape, when in fact that is not the reality. And if I can quote his colleague, Commissioner Hines, that we are not having an honest conversation with the public. He said that at the September 26th budget hearing, and Commissioner Nancy Dieter echoed that. There is very little left in our economic uncertainty fund. And it's not if, but when the next recession happens. That's also something that Commissioner Hines had said. Many, many presentations have been given to our Board of County Commissioners indicating that it's not an if, but a when scenario, and there's very little money for us to fall back on. So obviously those are important decisions that the county needs to work with the city commissions with, but these are all people that are deciding the fate of our future collectively as a whole. You know, Venice doesn't exist in a vacuum. Sarasota City doesn't exist in a vacuum. Northport does not exist in a vacuum. We all have to work together to make sure and ensure that the future of our county is going in a direction that we can be proud of, that we can be supportive of.
We're going to give you some rapid fire questions, 30 seconds. Here we go. We'll start with you. Consolidation of the fire department of Venice into the county. 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I would echo what the city commissioner candidates have set up here. They are by far the most qualified to have that discourse. They know what the city needs and how the city needs to react to that.
Alan?
I've made it a policy for 4 years. I do not get involved in city rezonings, city special exceptions, and short as shooting, I'm not going to get involved whether they merge with our fire department. 560 men and women. There was a merger with Sarasota. It went fine. That is Venice's decision.
Next.
I'll echo. I agree with Commissioner Fraze that it's not a good idea. And again, also on the side of it's something that has to be decided locally here in Venice.
Next.
We're running for the northern seat up in Sarasota County, and I live in the city of Sarasota. I think this is an issue that should be left up to the cities. If citizens want to pay a little bit more to have a different kind of service, let the citizens make their decision.
Okay, another 30-second question. If of all the different groups, which group do you think is primarily responsible for leading the pack on defeating red tide?
What do you mean by defeating red tide?
Well, is it a state issue? Is it a county issue? Is it a city issue?
Well,
is it a remote marine issue?
No, this is a loaded question. So with red tide, I think we all have a part in this. We all make a footprint, and we all need to find ways to mitigate it, whether it's Lake Okeechobee with what's going on with the federal level, or at the local level, what we can do with modernizing our stormwater system. So we all play a part. We should all play a part in the solution as well.
Next.
Well, I have to say, I think a lot of it stems from who's been sitting in the governor's seat for the last few years, stemming down. But there's things that we can do on a local level. There's things looking at pesticides, looking at stormwater, testing our waters, working in conjunction with getting more grants to do studies. So it comes down to every level, but I still think it flows from the top, and the top was the governor.
Alan?
All right, real quickly, it's everybody's problem. 180 tons of dead fish and debris have been scraped off the beaches. Businesses down by 50%. Wildlife decimated. Sarasota County has got one of the toughest fertilizer ordinances emulated and adopted across the state. More needs to be done. We do with Philippi Creek septic tank replacement program. Thousands and thousands of septic tanks no longer there. No more package plants, giant wastewater treatment plants. Just $40 million spent on Siesta to take out their old system and put in a new system.
30 seconds, next.
I agree this is everybody's issue. Every level of government has a role to play, and our county commission can certainly do that. We do have a fertilizer ordinance, but it does not mirror or reflect the rainy season dates that is statewide, which is May 15th to October 15th. Right now the ordinance is June 1st to September 30th. I think we can strengthen that. And I think we also need to be conscious of when we're approving developments, if it's near protected wetlands like our celery fields, or if it's Whole Foods building against county staff advisement over wetlands in the northern county. So we need to make sure that we are developing responsibly and enacting ordinances and incentive programs that can facilitate clearing up red tide.
We're going to have two quick questions, then we're going to bring this to a close. So if you wait here, first question that we ask, you all run on a party. You're Democrat, okay? So quickly, 30 seconds, your position on taxes.
I think some people may be surprised in here to know that I, like everyone in this room, are very interested in keeping our taxes low. We have some of the lowest in the state. I'm interested in keeping it there, but I also think that we need to have a very intentional conversation about the reality of the numbers, and that may, at some point in the future, require a small tax increase. It's not something I will actively advocate for, but I think we need, again, to have an honest conversation with ourselves.
Alan?
Okay, I pushed back on raising taxes. Let's be clear about a few things. You got a $1.24 billion budget, $293 million in the general fund. There are $160 million in reserves. We have a AAA credit rating. We are not going bankrupt. $160 million in reserves. We have a 75-day fund set there just in case of a catastrophe. The economic reserve, the economic uncertainty fund, we just plussed up $2.5 million after giving in this budget $3 million for an evacuation possibility when Sarasota Memorial builds on the southwest corner of Laurel and I-75.
Next, taxes.
Also, I
You're
think
running as a Democrat?
I'm a Democrat
Okay.
running, and I'm a finance person. I've been a business person my whole life. I think we have enough money, as Mr. Mayo said. I think we just have to reevaluate where our money is allocated. I also believe that the impact fees have to be held up by the developer side. That would loosen a lot of funds for us. So I don't think the people, us, we don't have to pay more taxes. I think we should just pretty much hold the developers to pave their way and pay their way.
I've been a very vocal fiscal and social conservative. I wear it on my sleeve. I believe in limited government. This is the biggest difference between my opponent and I. She believes in single payer. I think that it should be a two-part question, though. It should be, what's your position on taxes? And also, how do you pay for your wish list? I believe in limited government. That means less spending, and we do not raise taxes on our citizens.
Before I give him the last question, I wanted to acknowledge the Venetian Golf and River Club Community Association Board. Thank them when you leave. John Moko, our president, just flew back from the West Coast. Our executive vice president, Diane Maskell. To John's left, raise your hand, Tom Jones. And over here is Bob Saniels watching the camera so no one trips. And our two finances, and we hope you see them after for your membership where you are, Fred Baldwin and Diane Bozemak. Please give them a round of applause. Last question, here we go. And you guys have been great. And I know with 4 time limits, I got to go home, watch Jeopardy. So, and you people at home, you've been great. Just bring your jackets because it's freezing down here. First, why should I vote for you, Kristen?
Oh, what? Say that again?
That's the last question. Why should I vote for you?
Oh, why should you vote for me? Okay. And how long do I have? Is this a 30-second?
Well, you use 15 seconds of it, but yeah.
All right. Look, I tell people I'm very fortunate. I got into the party that's called Sarasota County a lot earlier than most of our residents, right? My wife and I, we live here, we work here. My parents retired here. My 2 girls, I have a 5-year-old, I have a 2.5-year-old, and I have another one on the way that will be born in March. I literally have skin in the game in Sarasota County. I never plan on leaving. I plan on staying here. I plan on retiring here. And hopefully my grandkids end up coming back here and living. So my goal is to make Sarasota County the best place to live, work, retire, raise a family. And that's what I'm going to do. That's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, the reason why you should vote for me is I actually believe in this community, and I believe in all of us working together. I have a really strong background as a business owner, but I also have a strong background in giving back on the charity side and seeing the needs of the needy in this community and combining the two. I'll be a tireless advocate for our environment. I believe our environment is our economy here in Sarasota. I am not chasing any politicians. I am not chasing Tallahassee or Washington or their endorsements. I'm chasing your endorsement. I need your vote on November 6th, and that's why I'm running.
Alan?
I've lived here 34 years, right down the street. At least twice a year, I meet with your board and your administration here. They call me very frequently. I have never disappointed them in not resolving an issue. I read every one of my emails. I take this job seriously, full-time, 60 hours a week. I am enmeshed in this community for 34 years. I made my money before I ran for this job. You can look at the financial disclosure statements. My wife retired from the school district right down the street. My son's a deputy here in Sarasota County. All 3 of my kids went to school here. I love this county. I am not leaving. In my old job, I could have worked anywhere in the United States that I felt like. And Nancy and I always chose Sarasota County, right here down the street for the last 25 years.
And last?
But not least. So I think now more than ever, we need a fresh perspective on our county commission. We need someone that's going to lead from the future and not the past. So I have founded my business after the recession. I have firsthand experience in our workforce looking for affordable housing. I have lived the issues that we care about, and I will listen. I will continue to listen. I've knocked on thousands of doors and called thousands of people. So if you're ready to put our environment first, to put our quality of life first, and to put the future of our children first, then I encourage you to vote Wesley Ann Beggs this November. And thank you all so much for coming out and listening to us.
Just a moment. Helen, you're going to stay around. Can you stay around for a little bit if you have questions? There's one person I wanted to thank. You know, once in a while, you'd like to call people and say, hey, I need your help. I called Jackie up and I said, I need your help. She didn't even ask what. Then I said, I need you to co-anchor with me for this. Okay, we've been in communication. She got here at 3. Jackie, thank you very much. Thank you. And you have been very, very good. Great. We look forward to seeing you. Don't forget those mufflers, hats, and all those things. Have a great day and vote in November. Bye now.